this is an iHeart podcast.
Life's messy. We're talking spills, stains, pets, and kids. But with Anabay, you never have to stress about messes again. At washablesofas.com, discover Anabay sofas, the only fully machine-washable sofas inside and out, starting at just $699. Made with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics. That means fewer stains and more peace of mind. Designed for real life, our sofas feature changeable fabric covers, allowing you to refresh your style anytime. Need flexibility? Our modular design lets you rearrange your sofa effortlessly. Perfect for cozy apartments or spacious homes. Plus, they're earth-friendly and built to last. That's why over 200,000 happy customers have made the switch. Upgrade your space today. Visit washablesofas.com now and bring home a sofa made for life. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Clay, have you heard of the Rio Reset?
Sounds like a trendy new workout, Buck.
It does, but it's actually a big summit going on in Brazil. The formal name is BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But they've just added 5 new members.
Smart move to stick with BRICS. We know what happens when acronyms don't end. They confuse everyone.
Well, that's an understatement. BRICS is a group of emerging economies hoping to increase their sway in the global financial order.
Now that sounds like the plot line of a movie. I'm listening.
Philip Patrick is our Bruce Wayne. He's a precious metal specialist and a spokesman for the Birch Gold Group. He's on the ground in Rio getting the whole lowdown on what's going on there.
Can he give us some inside intel?
Absolutely. He's been there since day one. In fact, a major theme at the summit is how BRICS nations aim to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar in global trade.
Yikes, that doesn't sound good. We got to get Philip on the line, stat.
Already did, and he left the Clay and Buck audience this message.
The world is moving on from the dollar. Quietly but steadily, these nations are making real progress towards reshaping global trade. And the US dollar is no longer the centerpiece. That shift doesn't happen overnight. But make no mistake, it's already begun.
Thank you, Philip. Protect the value of your savings account, your 401k, your IRA, all of them, by purchasing gold and placing it into those accounts and reducing your exposure to a declining dollar value. Text my name, Buck, to 989898. You get the free information you'll need to make the right decision. You can rely on Birch Gold Group, as I do, to give you the information you need to make an informed decision. One more time, text my name, Buck, to 989898.
Welcome back in, or welcome in. We hope you're always hanging out with us here on the Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show. We have got a lot to dive into, a variety of different stories continuing to percolate out there. Shawn Davis of the Federalist is going to join us top of the next hour, and then Mark Levin has a brand new book out. Many of you watch him on Fox News with Sean Hannity regularly. He'll be with us in the third hour of the program. But yesterday, not far from our New York City studios for iHeart, where Buck broadcast for a very long time, and where I have been and used those studios, and where our crew is that you hear us talking with all the time, there was a shooting about 6:30 p.m. Eastern. It appears that the shooter was in some way targeting the NFL, according to a 3-page letter that was allegedly left on the scene. I have not seen that full letter excerpted, but a former high school player of football drove all the way from Las Vegas to New York City. Went to the league offices in Midtown Manhattan, that is the NFL, and reports are that he then got on the elevator and went to the wrong floor. 4 innocent people killed, including a police officer who was working as a security guard, and several other innocent people. And then this individual shot himself in the heart with his gun and said, "Study my brain for CTE." That is the report that is out there. Now, you would maybe be a little bit surprised over who exactly the shooter was if you were watching CNN and they decided to say during the course of their coverage that the shooter was possibly white. This is Cut 9. Listen to this.
Was his face visible? I mean, do they have any idea at this point who he is?
They do not know who he is. They know he is
a male, possibly white. He's wearing sunglasses. He appears to have a mustache. And that picture has been distributed to every police officer in New York City.
Okay. Buck, you used to react to live incidents such as these on CNN. The picture of the guy, and we try to avoid saying the names of mass shooters because there's evidence that it encourages their behavior. Picture of the guy, he is clearly not white. So let's start here. As a real-time breaking news analyst, how can you explain this in any way other than this is CNN, white people are to blame for everything? Would you, am I drawing too much a conclusion here based on the picture? When I looked at it, I'm like, that is not a possibly white man. I will just say.
You have to think, what does possibly white even mean?
Yes.
Right? You would think either probably white or not white. I don't think that possibly white would be a phrase that would come to mind. But I think that CNN, in their breaking news coverage, especially, there's a playbook that they run in their news coverage of any horrific mass shooting, and it's either get the story out as fast, get the details about the shooter out as fast as possible, and then transition rapidly into scoring political points, right? So, he's white. This is Trump's fault. This is MAGA. This is white supremacy, right? That's, and if he's white and used a gun then it's white guy, gun control, MAGA, Second Amendment. There's all these things that they will immediately jump, even if it's going to be wrong and clearly a jump to conclusions moment for them. They want to jump to the conclusion. They're looking for the opportunity to jump to the conclusion. Whereas on the other side, if it is a non-white male and does not have a motive that immediately can be ascribed to him that fits in an anti-right wing, particularly a white supremacist or anti-Trump rubric, then you got to just say, we may never know the motive. We don't know what's going on here. Let's not rush to anything. And this is just what they do because this is really their worldview and their politics on display every time an incident like this happens. So, I mean, we can walk through the specifics of this, and I think it's worth just looking at the layers of security and what happened here. But I can tell everybody, I think the security conclusion that most people would come to for what happened here is you can't stop some maniac who has access to a gun from going in and shooting people. You can try to make it harder for that to happen. But this case, you had an armed NYPD officer who unfortunately was killed in the line of duty here. Tragically left behind a wife and children. But he was there.
Twin sons, Buck, and an 8-month pregnant wife. That is the New York City police officer who was shot.
But my understanding is he was shot in the back in the lobby. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're in a civilian area, you're a cop, and someone comes up and shoots you in the back, there's nothing, there's no way that you're going to be able to stop that threat unless you get eyes on this person in advance and are able to draw down before they can hit you. So there wasn't really a lot here from a security perspective. I think the bigger conversation immediately is that this guy had a couple of mental health flags. And, mental health, just like a whole bunch of public policy issues, runs a huge spectrum, right? There are tens of millions of people in America who have some mental health challenge. And I think you could argue that everybody has some level of mental health challenge at different times in their lives. Grieving with loss of a spouse or a loved one, you're in a horrific accident, you got trauma. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's nuts, okay? This guy is crazy, clearly insane, and a danger to himself and others. And we live in a country now, we live in a society where, thanks to leftist maniacs like the ACLU, who want to kick at the load-bearing walls of our civilization and see what happens, you basically can't lock up anybody anymore for being a complete wacko who's a danger to himself and others. It is almost impossible anywhere to get that done. We have emptied out all the asylums, and you get people. This guy's angry at the NFL, never played in the NFL.
Yeah, played high school.
Has nothing to do with the NFL.
Has no connection to it at all. I also think this is significant in New York City because one of the biggest elections we're going to have this fall is the New York City mayor's race. And guess where Mamdani, the lead New York City mayoral candidate for the Democrat Party, their nominee, is at a Ugandan compound right now because He was born and raised in his youth in Uganda. He has surrounded himself in Uganda with private security. This is a guy who said that cops were basically unnecessary and that we should have counselors, domestic counselors or social workers who are showing up at scenes of violence and trying to negotiate with the would-be perpetrator, including domestic violence incidents, which unfortunately often spiral into incredible danger for the usually women who are calling to report domestic violence-related incidents. And so I do think that it is yet another staggering hypocrisy that the guy who thinks, hey, social workers should be called to solve problems in New York City has his own private security detail, which is very armed, surrounding and protecting him on his Ugandan compound, which is where he is right now while this incident is playing out. So I think New Yorkers, again, I have said that I think that Republicans and reasonable people should not necessarily save New Yorkers from the idiocy of their choices. The consequences of their selection of a nominee is real. And the fact that you pick a guy who was not an American citizen until 2018, a guy who was born in Uganda, and basically a card-carrying member of the Communist Party to represent the biggest city in America seems like a really poor choice, but it's the choice Democrats have made. But this guy, to me, this incident crystallizes. I would also point out, this is, you lived in this area. This is two major, I would say, violent attacks that have happened in Midtown Manhattan. I know Luigi Mangione, who everybody's kind of forgotten about now, executed in cold blood the United Healthcare CEO on the streets of Manhattan. And now you have this guy driving all the way from Las Vegas, walking in and trying to kill as many people as he possibly can. This is, I gets a lot of attention, I understand, because New York City related events are covered more than shootings that happen elsewhere. But I do think this is where people sit around and say, okay, what's going on with New York City? Can we in any way keep the streets safe, even Midtown Manhattan, which is ostensibly supposed to be a very safe part of Manhattan?
Well, where this happened, it's in a building where the Blackstone Group, which is one of the most well-known private equity firms in the world, is located. The NFL headquarters, obviously, is there as well. And you have a lot of people. It's something of a crossroads. You have a lot of people who they think of Wall Street as down on Wall Street. That's actually original Wall Street is more of a tourist area now. There's not that much in the way of finance. Most of the big finance shops are in Midtown, actually, either on the west side or the east side. But right where this is, there's a number of very large financial institutions that are headquartered there. So you just have a huge number of people, Clay, in these office towers coming and going all the time. I have a cousin who missed this shooting in terms of being on that street by 10 minutes. I have my cousin's husband works at Blackstone. So, a lot of New Yorkers know people, by maybe a degree or two of separation, know people who are right there, at this building. I mean, if you think of, this is not an office tower like it is, like a standard. This is a big building, a lot of people, and a lot of people coming and going from this area. It's also a place where you see very little crime. There tends to be a pretty heavy police presence. And the fact there was an NYPD officer in the lobby, it just goes to show you that, they had that, they had secure entry, they had procedures and precautions in place. But if somebody with a rifle who knows how to use it doesn't care if they live or die and wants to go shoot a bunch of people in a civilian area, it's a soft target. It's going to be very, very difficult to stop that, certainly every time, or even a majority of the times. So I don't think that there's really much in the way of a security takeaway. I do think there's a bigger conversation in terms of what could have been done differently. I haven't seen anything yet. It's not like the police response was super delayed or slow. It's not that there wasn't anyone there. There was a good guy with a gun there. This guy got the drop on him and then killed a bunch of other people. Didn't kill a woman who came out of the elevator, kind of let her go on video. So this guy's a maniac. And now we'll look back and we'll see how known was it that he was a maniac. But I don't think, Clay, there are any takeaways from this about what would make people in New York City safer, other than this is it's like a horrible. It's just a horrible situation that took lives for no reason, and I don't think that there's anything that we can do to prevent bad people in society from killing people. Unfortunately, you can try. I'm saying all the time, right? I mean, yes, have the good guy there. Yes, have the security precautions, and I'm sure that stops things. Look at we just talked about the good guy with the gun stopping the mass stabbing from
Traverse
continuing
City in Walmart,
but he couldn't save everybody from being stabbed, right? So this situation is a very difficult one to defend against. That's I think one of the big recognitions that we have on this. We'll talk more about this also. I saw Clay. There's been more discussion of it, including from the media, and then there's media discussion of that attack in Cincinnati. We talked about the stabbing, but there was the attack in Cincinnati. The police chief has weighed in on this. So we have a bit of a law and order based first hour here that we'll get into shortly. But, if you run a business, staying connected to your employees is critical, especially if they're spread all over the country. Now, there's Zoom, there's conference calls, but what about times you need to spontaneously get a message out quickly, instantly? That's a time when rapid radios are really the tool you need. Modern day walkie-talkies that will keep your team connected at the push of a button. Rapid radios connects to a nationwide LTE network, allows you to talk to as many as 200 people at once with the push of a button. Rapid radios don't require any setup. Just pull them out of the box, press a button, and talk. They're compact, lightweight, and carry a 5-day battery charge. They're an excellent alternative to cell phone communication. Rapid radios are 100% private with no monthly fees or subscriptions. Visit rapidradios.com to save up to 60%. Get free UPS shipping from Michigan and use code RADIO for an extra 5% off. That's code RADIO when you go to rapidradios.com.
Saving America. One thought at a time. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
There's nothing like sinking into luxury. At WashableSofas.com, you'll find the Anabay sofa, which combines ultimate comfort and design at an affordable price. And get this, it's the only sofa that's fully machine washable from top to bottom, starting at only $699. The stain-resistant performance fabric slipcovers and cloud-like frame duvet can go straight into your wash. Perfect for anyone with kids, pets, or anyone who loves an easy-to-clean, spotless sofa. With a modular design and changeable slipcovers, you can customize your sofa to fit any space and style. Whether you need a single chair, love seat, or a luxuriously large sectional, Anabay has you covered. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Right now, you can shop up to 60% off store-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Add a little to your life. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Let's talk about this as well. So we had that mass shooting in New York City. We gave you the details of the shooter killed himself. He killed 4 people, including an NYPD officer, ran into a building, completely senseless, insane, horrific murders. And the guy, I think you'll find out, was, I don't know what the diagnosis would be of somebody, the proper medical diagnosis. I don't know if it's an extreme schizophrenic or something, but the guy has clearly some very serious mental health issues. There's also this Cincinnati attack that has gotten a lot of attention. We talked about it yesterday, and the Cincinnati chief of police, whom I have to say, just listening to her, looking at her, this shouldn't be your chief of police, Cincinnati. Okay. Just going to be honest with you about this right now. The chief of police should be somebody who has some degree of gravitas, commands some respect, seems competent. It should not be somebody who you think would be at a loss, like in some store selling wind chimes somewhere and incense or something. I mean, this woman strikes me as a huge lib. Start with that. Here she is dressing down the media for their coverage of the video that we all saw. Play 15.
The post that we've seen does not depict the entire incident. That is one version of what occurred. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened. And it makes our job more difficult. The irresponsibility with social media is it just shows one side of the equation quite frequently, without context, without factual context. And then people run with that. And then it grows legs and it becomes something bigger that we then have to try to manage as part of the investigation.
Okay.
She also said nothing, Clay, to tell us, okay, well, what else happened that we need to know about?
Well, I mean, my question for you and for everybody out there listening is, I watched the video, and I agree context matters oftentimes in video. What could occur short of that guy deciding to run and just start to attack 10 different people, right, with a knife or a gun, that would suggest, hey, a mob of people should beat a guy and stomp him on the ground and knock out his girlfriend? Like, what could happen? I don't know if there was a follow-up question from the media, but the question that you're asking is the right one. It is, okay, what is the context that in some way would provide self-defense to allow what took place in the video that went viral to not be representative of that? Do we think that this guy had a knife? Do we think he had a gun? Do we think he attacked 20 different people and they all felt compelled to simultaneously defend themselves? Seems
if you see the comments, and if you see the comments online, this hasn't been said by any official, but there's this insinuation from commenters, some of whom are pretending maybe they have some inside knowledge that maybe a slur was used. And the whole thing here is, well, if that happened, that changes. It actually doesn't. It doesn't matter what word someone calls you. You're not allowed to mob stomp them into the cement when they're defenseless. And this is maybe where the debate might go if we find out more details.
Look, I don't know how many of you have gone through the, let's be honest, sometimes uncomfortable but necessary process of setting up a will and a trust, but both Buck and myself have. And we hope to be living for a very, very long time to come still. But we've done it because we have families and we want to make sure that what we are concerned about would be taken care of when or if we pass, even if that might be untimely or maybe even earlier than expected. You do so much out there as a dad or a mom or grandma or grandpa to try to take care of your family. Have you set up a will and trust? It's easy. You can go online right now. It doesn't have to be intimidating. You get 20% off if you go to trustandwill.com/Clay. They're experts in creating trust and wills. That's trustandwill.com/Clay.
We're joined by our friend Shawn Davis, CEO and co-founder of The Federalist. Go to thefederalist.com. It is one of our favorite sites on the World Wide Web, which I don't think anybody calls it anymore really that, but it is the World Wide Web. Federalist.com. Great work there, including what we're about to talk about. Shawn, thanks for taking a break from what you're doing to chat with us. What's going on?
Well, thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Let's dive into this, man, shall we? Because so Dee and I, Gabbard, I sat down with her and we had a discussion in D.C. about a month ago about a lot of things. And certainly one of her mandates is to clean up the deep state mess that was, well, really the rot that spread from the top down in places like the CIA. She has released information about the soft coup attempt, or like I said, the nonviolent coup attempt, maybe a better way to put it, against Donald Trump. You are following this very closely now. You and Molly Hemingway, your colleague at the Federalist, have been on this for a decade now. What is new and important that has come out? We're going to walk everyone through this because the rest of the media, obviously, they were in on the collusion, right? I mean, they were in on the whole hoax, the fraud. What is new that people need to know about now?
So I think to understand the importance of the new developments, I think it's important to take a step back and look at what they were trying to do with the Russia collusion hoax back in 16 and 17 and 18. And there were two main pillars of that entire hoax. One of them was that Donald Trump personally colluded with Russia and Putin to steal the election from Hillary, that he was an agent of Russia and that he was working with them. That was the whole Steele dossier. That was the bulk of the Mueller thing. We know that was bunk. We've known that was bunk for a long time. But before they could even get to that phase of the operation, they had the first point, which was the claim that Russia meddled in our election in 2016 for the purpose of helping Donald Trump because Putin wanted Trump to win. That was injected into the bloodstream, and that was necessary to be there for people to believe that Trump colluded. But what we learned last week from the document releases from Tulsi Gabbard is that that claim was a lie. The CIA knew it was a lie. Obama and Brennan and Comey were all told it was a lie from their own experts. And they went ahead with it anyway. They cooked the books. They fabricated evidence. They ignored the experts. And they put out this bogus intel community assessment claiming that Russia had interfered for the purpose of helping Donald Trump win. And that was a lie.
All right, Shawn, thanks for coming on with us. Thanks for also sharing a great hometown or family town right now. I'm sure you saw that the state of Tennessee, according to CNBC, was the worst place in America to live. And I think I speak for everyone out there when I say, yeah, you're right. It's awful. Please don't come here. But you're running the Federalist, and I bet you get asked this question a lot. And it's the number one question I get asked as it regards to this story. Let's pretend you had a magic wand and you were able to dictate policy from this point going forward as it pertains to what happened with Russia. What should happen in your mind if you had that magic wand and you were able to direct policy? What do you think will happen? What is the significance, in other words, going forward, not looking back, looking forward prospectively as to what should happen and what will happen here?
So I think two things. If I could wave a magic wand, I'd make two things happen. Number one, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, McCabe, and Strzok would all go to prison. Because somebody has to pay a price for the crimes they perpetrated against the country.
At minimum, they would be charged with a crime if you were able. Okay, that is a concrete action. That's good. Okay, what else?
And then the second, so that we're going to put that in like kind of the law enforcement accountability for the fraud bucket. The other bucket is we have to make sure that something like this never happens again. And there was actually a recommendation, which was a really good one in the document that came out last week, which was a declassified HIPSI report and investigation of the ICA and then recommendations on what to do with it. And I think this business where you had these political appointees going in and cooking the books and saying, you know, we don't care if you don't think it's true. Recall that John Brennan said of the Steele dossier accusations, when told they were not true and not corroborated, yeah, but don't they ring true? There has to be a way to remove that type of political corruption from the process. And it's interesting, for a long time, we kind of were led to believe that all the experts agreed on the ICA, that they all agreed that Russia was doing this to help Trump. And the reality that we learned was that the experts were saying, no, that's not true. And it was the Democrat political appointees who demanded that it go in and be released.
So what would you like to see now from the DNI in terms of either further transparency and or actions from within the IC, the intelligence community, Shawn, to deal with this at those levels, right? There's the accountability and there's preventing this from happening in the future. What do you think we should see from DNI Gabbard and DCIA Ratcliffe, the Director of Central Intelligence, to get to those two goals?
Well, I think they've done a great job so far. You know, Ratcliffe, to my understanding, was trying to get these documents out back in 2020, even before the election, and was stymied by then CIA Director Gina Haspel, who, it's interesting, she was running London's office as the station chief back when some of the original, hoax intel that became the basis of Crossfire Hurricane came through the London embassy. I would like to know more about her role. I would like to know all the intel that was used. I would like to know all of the people who touched the lies, who signed the affidavits for the FISA warrants. I think we need complete and total transparency and openness about every single aspect of how that hoax was run from the beginning. And luckily, so far, it seems like Ratcliffe and Gabbard are on the same page there. I'm thankful that they have been as forthright as they have been.
Also, the Obama factor in all this, the names that you're talking about here, Shawn, Brennan, Clapper, right? Clapper was the Director of National Intelligence. Brenner was the Director of Central Intelligence. Brennan had been Obama's counterterrorism czar in the White House previously. Obama, though, is very clearly implicated in this too. Now, Clay and I have talked about how he was the president. The Supreme Court's weighed in. He's not going to face charges. But I do think it's important for people to understand that this wasn't the IC independent of the White House under the Obama administration. The collusion included the collusion of Obama and his top people in the IC to try to essentially hobble the Trump administration.
Yeah, and I think that's a tricky one. Number one, we had the kind of presidential immunity thing. Obviously, a president can't go out and like pop someone in the head and be like, I can kill whoever I want, I'm president. There's limits to it, clearly. But the Supreme Court has ruled that the president has a wide latitude to execute the authorities of his office. I actually wonder, in looking what happened, if there is a better case to be, given that Obama's probably not going to get hauled into a court and have cuffs slammed on him, might it be better to look at what Brennan and Comey and Clapper did and in the things they did in response to Obama saying get all the intel? Might it be a better option to look at what they did and say, you know what, they actually defrauded Obama. He told them to get this info with the expectation that what he was going to be given was accurate, and instead they all got together and colluded and conspired to give him bogus intel and to defraud not just the American people, but the commander-in-chief and president of the United States as well. I wonder if that might be a better tack to take going forward.
I think that's a super interesting idea. We're talking to Shawn Davis. You can check him out at The Federalist. Does great work there. Okay, I mentioned if you had the magic wand, a lot of this audience, and I would put myself in this category, is very skeptical that anybody in a position of power in the Democrat Party is ever going to be held accountable for anything that they have ever done. And I think this is where a lot of the frustration, Epstein, everything else comes. You are a grandma who walked in the Capitol Jan 6th, Merrick Garland, the Biden DOJ. I mean, they will maniacally focus on it to the extent that they're going to do a pre-morning raid to arrest you for trespass on that day. Meanwhile, you got all these different alleged crimes being committed by people in positions of power on the left in the Democrat Party. What do you think the chances are, if you were handicapping right now, Shawn, that there will actually be charges brought? I'm not even talking about convictions. I'm just talking about charges brought against any of these individuals related to what they did surrounding the Russia collusion lie.
Yeah, that's a hard question because, I'm not involved, obviously, in like the internal discussions about those types of charges. I think they're far better now than they ever have been. Just kind of reading between the lines of things we've seen and heard from Ratcliffe, from Gabbard, from Bondi forming these DOJ task forces to go after the Russia hoaxers, as opposed to doing a special counsel, I think is a really good idea. These task forces have traditionally been used by the federal government to get cooperations from all the various agencies and were a major tool used against the mob, against racketeering, against organized crime early on, which is something you have to kind of look at. You have to look at an organized conspiracy in order to get around a lot of these statute of limitations that you have. But I think it's important to look at what happened to like J6ers. These were people who were put through the ringer. They were bankrupted. Their families were terrorized. They were eventually pardoned. Why is the right not putting the left and the people who've done far, far worse things to this country and committed far greater crimes? Why are they not subjecting them to the same punishment by process that the left is doing? Because if anyone has ever been involved in any sort of lawsuit, criminal or civil, they'll tell you it's awful, it's miserable, it saps you of all types of energy and focus. And what I don't understand is, why is Congress in their oversight committee not doing the exact same things to the left? Why is DOJ not doing the exact same things to the left that they did to our side for 8 years? Because I do think the process is the punishment, and our side was terrorized by the process for 8 years, and it's about time the other side gets a turn in the barrel if we're ever going to get to a point where people decide we can't do this anymore.
Last question for you, a little bit quick here maybe on the answer, and I know it's not a topic that necessarily lends itself to a rapid answer. If the Trump team were listening right now, and I think there's probably a decent chance that some of them are, what advice would you give them on what they should do for the Epstein controversy at this point?
Oh, man. That's a tricky
30
one.
seconds.
Yeah, I wish they would just release everything. I get why that is difficult. They've got an appeal with Ghislaine Maxwell going on now. There's a lot of victim rights stuff. I wish they would release everything. And if the conclusions are different than what people are expecting, walk us through why that is, what they looked at. I just think openness and transparency is the most important antidote here. And I think it got oversold very early on by some people in the administration, and that caused them a lot of problems, and they're now having to take themselves out from that.
I know I said last question, but I'm actually curious. You run a digital media site. I sold one several years ago. Can you tell a difference in the ad market in Trump 2.0 compared to Trump 1.0? Does it feel fairer to you based on the business that you run?
It doesn't to me. We were targeted for extinction by the Biden admin and the entire left-wing censorship industrial complex. They tried to get us blacklisted from Google, from Facebook. They went after all the major ad players, got us blacklisted there. So I say no, we have not seen any difference yet, but it's because of the damage that was done to us by our own government and our own tax dollars illegally was pretty significant. And so I haven't seen a big change in the ad market yet, at least for us.
That's something we should have a longer form discussion about sometime, Shawn Davis, the Federalist, because I do think that's a story that a lot of people don't understand, how aggressively the Biden team went after digital truth tellers, in my opinion, to try to bankrupt them. And most of that story really hasn't been told to a large degree. Appreciate the time, Shawn.
Thank you both. Take care.
Good work at the Federalist. I want to tell you, speaking of good work, last week we had steaks in the Travis household. They were phenomenal. They were from Good Ranchers. The last time that I was with Buck down in Miami, lovely wife Carrie, she made us steaks, and they were from Good Ranchers. We love this company. They are doing fabulous work. I was up at the Indy 500 with the founders of this company, with Ben and his wife Corley. They have 4 young kids, and they wanted to have American-made products, American-grown products that were free of harmful antibiotics, free of all of the sort of antigens that get put in, unfortunately, into a lot of the meats, the preservatives, everything else. This is all American-raised cattle from American farmers, chickens raised right here at home, no antibiotics, no added hormones in these proteins. You're going to love them, whether it's steaks, burgers, chicken, whatever you like, whatever your kids like, sent straight to the home. When that box arrives, I guarantee you're going to be excited. In fact, you got young kids. My kids love the chicken nuggets. They are fabulous. Right now, when you subscribe, you get your pick of free meat for life. That can be Wagyu burgers, hot dogs, bacon, chicken wings, chicken nuggets, whatever you want to sign up for. You can get hooked up. And right now, just to try it out, why not? $40 off. You go pick whatever meats you like. They got salmon, they've got chicken, they've got steak, they got everything under the sun, straight to your home. American ranchers, American farmers. You are going to love it. GoodRanchers.com is the website. Just go check it out. It's really cool. GoodRanchers.com. If you got kids, grandkids, you want them to eat healthy, you want protein sent straight to the home, GoodRanchers.com. $40 off when you use my name Clay. That's GoodRanchers.com. My name Clay. $40 off. Plus you get free meat for life the first time you sign up. Check it out today. GoodRanchers.com. Code Clay. That's GoodRanchers.com. Code Clay.
Want to be in the know when you're on the go? The Team 47 Podcast. Trump highlights from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Something that you may have never heard me say in 4 years on this show. I am going to give some praise to the New York Times. The Sunday, I swear, I'm an old man, so for those of you watching me on video, I am holding my copy of the Sunday print edition of the New York Times. And there is an article in there by someone named Daniel Martinez Hosong, and I probably have not pronounced all of that name correct. I'm pretty good about Daniel Martinez. No idea how Hosong is supposed to be pronounced. But his article is entitled Inside the Rise of the Multiracial Right. And it goes into how white, black, Asian, and Hispanic voters have overwhelmingly moved in the direction of Trump. And to their credit, they have interviews with black voters in Milwaukee, Asian voters in San Francisco, and Hispanic voters on the border in Texas. All of them used to vote Democrat, and they now have moved on to vote for Trump and be supportive of him. And I was thinking about this when the Wall Street Journal also over the weekend had a big piece analyzing larger political trends and issues, and they found the Democrat Party to be the least popular in the history of their poll, 35-year low. And I was thinking about that, the rise of Black, Hispanic, and Asian Trump voters. I bet a lot of you are out there listening who certainly were not Trump voters in 2016, of a variety of different backgrounds, but were by 2024. And I was thinking about how, to a large extent, I think it just comes down to authenticity. And Mayor Pete, who we talked about, actually has 0% support among black voters. 0%. Was interviewed recently, and he was asked a very straightforward question. And to me, this is why Democrats have lost men and have lost a lot of Asian, Black, and Hispanic support. They can't answer questions honestly. And I want you to listen to this. Mayor Pete has asked a very simple question. Should men be allowed to compete in women's sports? I want you to listen to his answer. Play, I believe it's cut 26.
When President Trump says something like no boys and girls sports, which is a phrase that they use, it sounds like you're not signing on to that.
I think that chess is different from weightlifting, and weightlifting is different from volleyball, and, middle school is different from the Olympics. So that's exactly why I think that we shouldn't be grandstanding on this as politicians. We should be empowering communities and organizations and schools to make the right decisions.
Keep it going, Pete. I love it. Keep speaking nonsense. Keep telling people things that make them immediately think you can't answer a straightforward question. You dance in circles because you think you're smarter than all of us, and you are not.
How about starting with, I think chess is different than weightlifting? Yeah. I don't hear a lot of people say girls and boys shouldn't be able to compete in chess. In fact, they do compete all of the time. And so there is no, yes, if you sit at a board and play a board game, I also think boys and girls should be able to play Who Sunk the Battleship and Clue and Monopoly together. Yes, I don't think that boys being bigger, stronger, and faster implicates who passes go first. But I do think that clip that we just played is representative of why Democrats are lost in the wilderness, because they know that they're on the wrong side of issues. And instead of directly addressing a question like he was asked there, they try and filibuster. And to your point, Buck, try to answer as if they are so much smarter than everybody else who just wants to get an opinion. And I think this is why, one reason, Mayor Pete is at 0% support among black people, because in addition to the fact that he's a gay white guy, which probably doesn't help him, he's also very faculty classroom, which is why I think white educated voters like him, because they think of him as the smart philosophy professor at place you went to school, or Swarthmore or someplace like that. But they don't actually connect with average people going through average daily life.
Yeah, this is why the Democrats have the problems they do right now connecting, because the people who are putting themselves forward as the leaders of their party are smug and disingenuous. I think it is apparent that they have a real branding issue going forward, because as much as Joe Biden was a clown, a jerk, and obviously had dementia for the 4 years of his presidency, he used to understand the game, the grip and grin, the say whatever, the make people think you care about them just enough for them to pull the lever for you. Like, Joe Biden got that. That was his whole life, was just BSing people into pretending that he cares about, or pretending that he cares about them so they'll vote for him. There are all these other Democrats now who, people like Gavin Newsom, no one thinks Gavin Newsom cares about them. Pete Buttigieg doesn't he makes you think that he thinks he's smarter than you. And that's the whole game with him, is that, vote for me because I'm so brilliant. That doesn't connect with people. And the only people they have who connect are the socialists, who just go right to we're a bunch of malcontents. we're angry at other people who are more successful than us, which is the AOC Bernie wing of their party. But they don't have that Clintonian, I'll feel your pain. Like, they don't have that.
Here's one that I think is good, Buck. This is from the New York Times, from a voter in Milwaukee. This guy's name is Orlando Owens. Listen to this, everybody out there, and I want you to think about just this description. He says, at my first Democrat meeting, 2 themes had me reconsider everything. The first was, we have to help the poor black men and women because the white man is holding them down. This is a black guy, by the way. This is the first time I hear about this white savior complex from white liberals. Then they said, we have to fight for our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. We have to do this or we're racist or bigots or homophobes if we don't agree with you. When you get your food stamp review, you have to go give shot records, school records, blood type. You almost have to get absolutely naked to get $50. But you have people coming to this country who have no documentation, who are staying in hotels for 2 years for free. How's that right? A lot of black people have already heard the promises from Democrats, and nothing was delivered. That guy, 51-year-old voter from Milwaukee, is more honest in that answer than Mayor Pete, who wants to be the president of the United States and is trying to persuade voters to support him. It's a fundamental inauthenticity that I think has really riven through male voters. Now, here's the crazy thing, Buck. We talked about to start the show off the Sydney Sweeney situation. Do you know the foremost critics right now of this American Eagle pretty girl advertisement? White women. Mm-hmm. White women are losing their minds on social media over the fact that Sydney Sweeney, who is also a white woman, is in some way the front of the Democrat Party. I mean, sorry, in front of the front-facing American Eagle.
They're like cult members who now have the broader society challenging their fundamental beliefs. And the fundamental belief of being in the lib cult is that whiteness, or just being white, must always be contained, demeaned, undermined. And you cannot celebrate. And can I just also point out, it particularly bothers them that it's a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. This is like, they're specifically, that is what really upsets them. To which I just sit here and say, what, like, these people are psychos. Well, what is wrong with them? You know, so you're supposed to be particularly ashamed of yourself if you have blonde hair and blue eyes. By the way, it's very rare genetically, globally, to have that. And yet we're supposed to think that this is some kind of, what were they saying? It's a dog whistle for Nazism or something.
Yeah.
They're insane.
Well, it's straight Nazism, according to Good Morning America. But I think this is such a fascinating question for people out there. And maybe you can think of it. Has there ever been a group of people that have hated themselves for things that they cannot choose? That is now the backbone of an entire political party. The Democrat Party basically exists for liberal white women. That is the foundation. They are driving every decision that is made. The toxic nature of the woke mind virus gets them particularly in a way where everybody else, it's like, has become aware of how broken this worldview is. Except liberal white women are now doubling and tripling and quadrupling down. Like my favorite clip that we probably have played in the past year, that white woman who went to go buy the champagne or whatever it was to celebrate the fact that women were showing up to vote Kamala, and she lectured the guy working in the liquor store about it. We need to pull that back.
I'm sorry, Clay. You mean the political analyst who was telling us that the women of America will have their voices heard in this election?
I mean, yes, like maybe we can play that at the end of the show for people who have forgotten this. But what does it say that the Democrat Party is basically being led to 35-year lows in popularity by almost entirely following the whims and emotional responses of young white women who have decided they hate other young white women for being pretty, blonde, and having blue eyes? I don't know that there is a historical analogy to this. It's one thing to be arguing, hey, I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud of my race, or I'm proud of my ethnicity, or I'm proud, whatever it is. That's very common. Have we ever seen someone self-flagellate like this because of immutable characteristics that they themselves did not choose? Like, nobody chooses. Well, I know you can change your hair color now and things like that, but nobody chooses to be a gender, or sane people do not choose to be a gender or a race, right? They're an immutable characteristic. We are born as we are. I'm not sure we've ever seen anything like this. And I do think it's worth grappling with to try to comprehend how we got here and why guys like this Milwaukee black guy who I just quoted from the New York Times are looking around and saying, man, this is crazy. This is not the Democrat Party I grew up with.
There's also a fighting against biology that is going on here with the anti-Sydney Sweeney stuff, which is men are going to and by the way, women will aspire toward female beauty and men will be drawn toward female beauty no matter what the libs and the media and the propaganda machinery says.
That's right. It's basic biology.
Yes. They can spend the rest of their lives telling us that morbid obesity is the most sexy thing in the world, and it is not going to change the desire that men have for healthy, attractive females. It's just not going to happen. And this is where, the left, because they believe in the government in place of God and the total control of government that would make some kind of utopia. They think that they can change even the most basic parts of our humanity and of our wiring, and they can't. And you see this with the trans debate too. It's like, that's a woman. No, it's not. You can tell me all day that the guy who says he's a woman, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to sit here and go, okay, yeah, you're right, that's a woman. They can try. There's no level of persuasion, and then it's just brute force, which is what they really started to try. Say it's a woman or you lose your job. Say it's a woman or we'll ruin your life, your reputation, kick you off the internet, debank you, right? That's just brute force. And that is what the left in the Biden years decided to go all in on a number of these issues. So, yeah, people still like hot chicks. It's going to continue. It's going to continue to be the case. Yeah, I know. Clay knows. He knows.
Trust me, I'm sold.
He's sold. Yeah, he's not.
I understand basic biology. I co-sign here.
All right. Indulge me for a minute while I share a true story with you. A teenage girl by the name of Kayla, just 17 years old, pregnant, sitting all alone in a clinic. She was terrified, tears blurring her eyes, thinking abortion was her only option as she contended with the biggest decision she's had to make in her first 17 years on this earth. And she was afraid to make that decision until she was offered a free ultrasound that was paid for by a thoughtful person just like you. The moment Kayla heard her baby's heartbeat, she made the decision for life. And today her little baby boy, Gabriel, is thriving because preborn walked with Kayla every step of the way. Now multiply that story by about 38,000 times. That's how many babies preborn has helped save just this year. 38,000 pregnant moms facing that decision in crisis, just like Kayla, and preborn came along, held their hand, hugged them, and said, hey, motherhood is possible for you. But here's the most important thing you will hear today. Their goal is to save 70,000 babies by the end of this year, and they simply can't do it without you and me. Every $28 provides that ultrasound, and that's the moment that everything changes. You'll be the reason the next Kayla chooses life for her tiny boy or girl and brings him into this world. To donate securely, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or visit preborn.com/buck, preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored by Preborn.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Mic drops that never sounded so good. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's be real. Life happens. Kids spill. Pets shed. And accidents are inevitable. Find a sofa that can keep up at washablesofas.com. Starting at just $699. Our sofas are fully machine washable inside and out. So you can say goodbye to stains and hello to worry-free living. Made with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics, they're kid-proof, pet-friendly, and built for everyday life. Plus, changeable fabric covers let you refresh your sofa whenever you want. Need flexibility? Our modular design lets you rearrange your sofa anytime to fit your space, whether it's a growing family room or a cozy apartment. Plus, they're earth-friendly and trusted by over 200,000 happy customers. It's time to upgrade to a stress-free, mess-proof sofa. Visit WashableSofas.com today and save. That's WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Joined now by Mark Levin. He's the host of the Mark Levin Show. Also, Fox News Channel's Life, Liberty, and Levin, and the chair of the Landmark Legal Foundation. New book out today on power, and you have already written 8 consecutive New York Times #1 bestsellers. That's kind of a pretty cool thing. But let's start here, Mark, before we dive into the book. What should happen with the Russia collusion revelations from Tulsi Gabbard, and what do you think actually will happen? Is there a difference between what you would suggest and the reality? How would you analyze this?
First of all, thanks for having me. Well, she's not going to be charged with treason. I think that's been done once in recent times, and it's not going to happen. The elements aren't there, unfortunately, for legal treason. Was her conduct treasonous? In English common law, probably so. Meaning his conduct, Obama's, I should say. Well, what should happen is they should open a full investigation, which is exactly what they're doing. They should question Obama. They should get all his texts and emails and any other communication. He should be questioned under oath. He should go through the same rigmarole that Trump did. They created the precedent, but in this case, he's a guilty man. And go through all that. You also have the potential for process crimes, as we call them, obstruction, perjury, false statements, all that stuff. And he should be required to defend his liberty. And also the reason you question him is to determine if other people have committed crimes. A conspiracy to use this kind of information to undermine an election, that is a crime. But the extent to which, you got lawyers commenting saying, conspiracy really starts with the last conspiratorial act. That's true, but conspiracy has to start somewhere. If it starts 20 years ago, it won't apply. But let's go ahead and do the investigations. You don't need probable cause to conduct a criminal investigation. You need some notion of reasonableness. This is more than reasonable. And conduct it and see where it takes you.
Mark, we've been following, obviously, very closely since the events of October 7th, not only the war in Gaza against Hamas, but also the waves of anti-Semitism on campus. We know that Columbia University just agreed to pay $200 million, and Harvard University, under this Trump administration's tenure, is looking like they're going to have to pay substantially more than that because of their failure to protect Jewish students. There's a narrative, though, that we're seeing get a lot of attention, including on the right, by some people that I think you would that people would consider to be either at least Trump supporters, Trump voters, that there's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza that is of Israel's making and intention. We played the U.S. ambassador to Israel addressing that, but I wanted to hear your take on not only what is really going on as you see it over there, but also why are conservatives buying into this?
There's conservatives and there's conservatives, right? There are isolationists who claim to be conservatives, and then there are real conservatives who are conservatives. And the bottom line is this. Why would the Israelis want to starve to death the people in Palestine? The people in Gaza, and have the whole world turn against them? Why would they do that? The Israelis could have blown that little piece of the earth off the face of the earth a long time ago, but they haven't done that. John Spencer, who's an expert in this, he says there's not another war on the face of the earth, anytime he looks back, anytime, the country that was attacked is being forced to feed the people of those who attacked them and slaughtered their own people. The Israelis have brought in enough food in Gaza to feed 2 million people every single day. You've got 18-wheelers that are stuck. You've got pallets of food that's stuck. Why are certain conservatives speaking as they are? I don't even call them conservatives, Buck. if you have this kind of anti-Semitism, and that is your view, then there's something wrong with you. Hamas is a terrorist organization. This is their last desperate act in order to survive, to turn the entire world against this little country, and they're succeeding. They're succeeding. I mean, France has been conquered by open immigration. It is basically, it has failed as a Western society. Britain has been fundamentally conquered by open immigration, by the Islamists and so forth. It has failed. Much of Europe has failed. This was the plot and the plan of the early Islamist scholars. They wrote about it, revolution by immigration. They're doing exactly the same thing in our country, but for Donald Trump. Can you imagine 4 more years and they may have succeeded under a Biden or a Kamala Harris, but for Trump. And the Democrat Party is fully engaged in this. Look at the Democrat Party. We're most of the anti-Semites. You know, we have some freaks and fruitcakes and that sort of thing. This is part of the Democrat Party. This is the Bernie Sanders, AOC, Tlaib. They're candidates for office. You know, if we had a candidate like this Mandami, but instead he was wearing white robes and a white hood, and he was part of the Klan and said the things that Mandani has said, you know, about international terrorism against the Jews, we would reject that guy. We would denounce that guy. Here you have Democrat Party leaders slobbering all over themselves, bending over backwards, trying to figure out how to support him without supporting him. So my answer to you is I can't explain the anti-Semites wherever they come from, but the fact is Hamas is killing its own people the way Mao killed his own people, the way Stalin killed his own people, the way these bastards kill their own people because they're out for their own power.
The book is interestingly enough, given what you just talked about, the book is called On Power. Part of power is knowing when to use it and when not to. You were right. I think both Buck and I were right on this too, that striking Iran a significant blow on their nuclear capabilities was the right decision for President Trump. We heard from tons of people out there that if this happened, World War III would happen. Thousands of Americans would die. The price of oil would go to $10 a gallon. None of that happened. And many of the people who said that would happen, it's like it never even occurred, that debate. How do you take consequences here going forward when it comes to analyzing that situation? And how much of a win do you think that was really for Trump to have made that decision?
It was big for President Trump to make that. Look, he has a technique, which is let us negotiate, let's make a deal, let's see if we can get where we get. But if you're dealing with people who are irrational on the other side, you know, like terrorists or communists or that sort of thing, or Hamas types and so forth and so on, there's a point at which it becomes obvious that that's not going to work because you're dealing with really what is what I call positive power mentality versus people who have no interest in that whatsoever. They're very evil. As for the people who predicted these things, they should be shamed. They should be disgraced. And they're going to keep doing it because they need the hits, they need the eyes, they need the clicks, they need all that stuff. And, you know, I don't know who is arguing what. You guys are very solid. I know I was arguing too. This isn't warmongering, for God's sakes. Preventing a terrorist regime from having atomic weapons that keep threatening us, or the use of these missiles that they were going to build into the tens of thousands that are aligned with communist China and communist North Korea and KGB Putin. I mean, if we're not going to take a stand there, then when the hell are we going to take a stand? When they hit us, the continental United States? That is absurd. That is isolationism. That is not what Trump meant by peace through strength. It's not what Reagan meant by peace through strength. They are not isolationists. In other words, they're not suicidal.
Mark, wanted to ask you to tell us a bit about the book out today, On Power. And I know you've written 8 #1 bestsellers. This one already rocketing up the charts. What do you want people to take away? And a lot of people in this audience I know are getting their copy right. A great August beach or out in the woods at the cabin read, everybody, On Power. What do you want people to take from the book?
Or sitting your ass on the basement like I do.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We debate liberty. We debate rights. I was thinking about this. We have got to become more effective in dealing with these Marxists, these Islamists, these other people. What is it that the Revolutionary War was fought over? It really wasn't fought over liberty. It was fought over power. Who gets to decide what? You know, the French Revolution was fought to destroy their society. The American Revolution was not fought to destroy our society. It was fought for representative government. And you start to think about these things. What makes us so different from Europe? What makes us so different from the Marxists and the Islamists? What makes us different is what the founders told us. A belief in God, a belief in the Judeo-Christian value system. They're very explicit about it, and it's fused with the Enlightenment. You know, power checks power. You're not going to find that with the Marxists, whether it's Bernie Sanders or Tlaib or any of them. It is a constant battle with the Democrats and their ideologues over centralization of power versus individual sovereignty. God is sovereign on earth. We are his children. We are sovereign. Look, I'm not proselytizing. I'm not even capable of proselytizing. You don't have to be Jewish or Christian. You don't have to be a believer in anything. But our country was created under this belief system that has enabled this tolerance and this diversity and freedom of speech and limited government. Communism is the opposite. Islamism, radical political Islamism, is the opposite. No free speech, no debate. It's conformity and control. And I'm just trying to express in this book, I take the word power and I break it into different pieces, positive, negative, thought control, language control, because we better get better at explaining what we're fighting over, or we're going to lose. We'll have respites with the Donald Trump, but when these guys take power, they make permanent changes like open borders. Can you imagine? If the border had been open another 4 years, I don't think we could have recovered from this. And it could be open another 4 years if we lose an election. So my view is, when we explain to people, when you listen to a Mandamis, people like that, what they're saying is, we're going to steal your liberty, your individuality. We're going to steal your rights. We're going to make decisions for you. This 33-year-old punk who's never done anything, he's going to determine how each and every one of us are going to live, how we're going to raise a family, where we're going to raise a family, redistribution of wealth, which is the destruction of wealth, which is the destruction of private property. This is the whole 1619 Project, CRT, DEI, whatever cockamamie ideas they can come up with, wokeism, language control, thought control. People need to understand you are fighting for your own liberty and survival. That's what's going on here. That's what I'm trying to explain in this book in a number of different ways.
The book is On Power. Mark Levin, you all know him, is the author. Go get your copy. Mark, congrats on the new book, and thanks for making time for us today.
By the way, you guys are great. I really appreciate you. Keep up the great work. God bless.
Thanks a lot.
You too,
we appreciate that.
All right, with the tariff deals being announced this week, you're going to hear estimates of how many billions of dollars are going to be coming into our federal government. Now, that's a great thing, but we still have a $37 trillion debt. We still have a lot of long-term financial challenges as a country when it comes to inflation, money printing. How do we get out of this debt? And what's going to happen in the meantime? Look, I'm not saying that you should go crazy with it. I'm just saying today is a good day to diversify into gold and silver. A portion of your savings in gold and silver makes sense as part of your long-term wealth preservation and even wealth growing plan. And Birch Gold Group is who I trust to do that for me and do it for you as well. Gold is an appreciating asset, up 40% in the past year. Central banks from other countries continue to bolster the demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Birch Gold makes owning physical gold very easy. For thousands of customers in this audience, they've already helped convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA with physical gold. They can also help you just buy gold to store in your home safe. I've got gold bars and gold coins from Birch Gold Group. Text my name, Buck, to 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of happy customers. Take control of your savings today. Text my name, Buck, to the number 989898 to get started.
Keep up with the biggest political comeback in world history on the Team 47 podcast. Clay and Buck highlight Trump replays from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.